Hello, everybody, and welcome to Youth Dialogue, a podcast where we deep dive into digital health with experts from the field. Youth, a youth ownership of digital health, is a community of young digital health professionals from across the world. You can click on the link in the description to become a member. Today's episode is part of a very special series celebrating the Digital Health Week, a global week of action to promote digital health as a means of accelerating universal health coverage. We are dedicating each day of the week to a specific theme on digital health. And today's theme is Decolonizing Digital Health, Gender Diversity and Inclusion. I'm Caroline Knop, the Regional Youth Champion for Europe and North America of the Digital Transformations for Health Lab, and I'm your host for this episode. I'm proud to be part of the series co-hosted by Youth, Transform Health, and Young Experts Tech for Health. Today we have a very special guest, which is Pape Gaye, the founder, president at Baobab Institute for Health and Development, a highly reputable global health and development expert with solid track record in family planning, sexual and reproductive health and rights, human resources for health, and digital health, with nearly 4 decades of experience. I hope you're all just as excited as I am, so welcome our guest.
Thank you, Caroline. Yes, indeed. My name is Pape Gaye, um, and I am the founder and president of the Baobab Institute for Health and Development, a new organization set up in Dakar, Senegal. We are basically working on capacity strengthening with a major focus on local organization. And this is our response to the whole issue of localization and how do we do a better job of succeeding in localization. So we believe that without strong organization, strong institutions, it will be very difficult to meet that objective. So we are putting our focus on supporting local organization, which tend to be uh, small, around 1 or 2 people, anyway, with very limited capacity. So in Francophone West Africa, I think it's a priority. So we're trying to respond to that. Okay.
Amazing. That
Mm.
sounds,
Yes.
that sounds just fantastic.
Yes.
I want to start this episode off with just a little definition because the term decolonization is a buzzword that we just hear everywhere nowadays, right? So, what does decolonization mean in the context of digital health for you? And how can global leaders, donors, and people from academia help to decolonize digital health?
Um, yeah, very important question, and thank you for putting it up because I do think it's important that we set the stage, that we don't create confusion, which unfortunately the term decolonizing health, decolonizing development, decolonizing digital health, and all that was met with some confusion in the field. I'm putting a lot of emphasis on talking to local actors because I personally feel that the whole conversation was kind of another top down initiative. It's not an issue that people on the ground really had. I think whether it's localization, whether it's decolonization, um, I think the agenda was not an agenda that started from the bottom up. It's again, it's the donor community, it's the international NGO. I think it's a right thing to do, but I do think it's important that we clarify. So, in my opinion, decolonizing digital health or decolonizing global health or general, I think it's just a systematic way of looking at why we are not making progress faster. And there is this theory that the systems that we currently have, and it's interesting that we're focusing on digital health, but I think because I think it's a good example that if an initiative is initiated from top down, uh, and people don't quite understand what's behind it, what's the rationale, and all that, it becomes complicated. So everything that we have in terms of health systems, new health technologies, and all that, um, I think thinking about decolonization means let's be careful and let's not create a situation where it looks like we're imposing things to people. We need to do this together. We need to co create. We need to strategize. And that is important because if you don't do that, we're just going to live with this problem forever. People are always going to say, well, that's, you did all the thinking, you did all the designing, you want me to just implement your idea. And people resist that. People resist doing something which they were not involved in creating. So that's how I see decolonization and decolonizing digital health. I think what we want to say, what should we do now so that in a few years down, we're not going to be having this conversation about colonization. If we do it right, there should not even be an issue. You could not even see, you could not even you cannot distinguish who started this initiative and so forth. So I think that's, to my mind, that's what we want to talk about. How can we uh, be careful? How do we approach digitalizations in a way that's going to put people in charge of their own destiny? To me, that's the point of view I have, and that's because Caroline, when people were asked, some of the reactions in Africa about decolonizing, people were saying, "What are you trying to do? You want us to get back to the colonial period?" You know, I thought we passed that. What are we talk? Why are we talking about decolonization? Why should we look into the future rather than looking into the past? Um, but I think it's important. Like the saying is that if you don't learn from the past, you're bound to repeat the mistakes. And I think that's what we don't want to do. We don't want to repeat the mistakes that were made when the current health systems were set up. That's why you did a right thing by putting this on an agenda for conversation during Digital Health Week. So that's kind of a broad thing about where my mind is in this subject of decolonization. So important conversations to have, but let's just make sure we continue to clarify why we're having it, and we're having it because we want to make progress faster, because we want to include people in designing what's good for them for the future. Um, yeah, we want to change our attitude uh, toward the people that we are trying to help. And finally, we want to level the playing field, because if the playing field is not level, that's when you have these problems, these issues. But but it's not leveled for a lot of reasons, because it's people with money trying to help people without money, people with the technology trying to help people without technology. But you know what the beautiful thing is with digital health? We have the possibility of starting at the same point, because the coders are everywhere, because the young population, the youth, is much more homogeneous than my generation, for example. you know um, Digital champions in Nairobi or in Dakar are in the same plane as digital innovators in New York or Berlin, or so we do. I have hopes that we can have a good start, and it is good to visit this whole concept of decolonization. So we do it right.
That was
Okay.
an amazing answer and a very good start into your episode, I would say. Very comprehensive. Love that. I also loved how you said we have to co-create digital health and we
Yes.
really have to start from bottom up. Do
Yes.
you have maybe like some examples of how this could look like and how we could achieve this?
Well, um, so Yeah, there are many examples. The Baobab Institute, my organization, was just invited by USAID this week. I'm not there. I'm in the US right now, but this week we started a co-creation workshop because, and this is very different from the way I've been working with USAID funded work for a long time. And it used to be, you would apply for these grants. When you're the winner, basically you go straight into implementation. Okay, now it's very, very different. Now you submit a concept note. If your concept note is selected, then you're invited to a co-creation workshop, and then you have an opportunity. I don't know yet what it's going to look like, but I imagine we'll have an opportunity to hear from the people that had the design and the thought, and then they'll get to hear our thoughts from our team and together. I think it's very healthy. I think that's the kind of thing that I think we need to be doing more, and specifically on the digital health front. We had some good examples of technology that was either created directly in the field, or I think the thing that happened with Ushahidi in Kenya was a good thing. I think a few years back, when the digital health movement really started in Africa, in East Africa, Kenya had a big role. And then you had a lot of the digital champions coming together, developing tools, and it caught just like fire. It became such a powerful thing. So it showed that it's possible, and I think we have now an opportunity. You can work online. You can have virtual conversations like you and I are having right now. So the possibilities are much, much bigger. That's why we all have hopes that we can finally reach universal health care if we harness the power of digital health and digital technology.
Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely.
Yeah.
Especially like after the COVID-19 pandemic, right? Online working has just become the new normal.
Exactly. Yeah, it became suddenly we realized, oh my God, we don't have to spend millions and millions. We don't have to pollute the atmosphere with all these plane rides, and you can do so much. Yeah, I think that was the big eye opener. Definitely.
Yeah. And I love it that just like developers and people working in the space of digital health can just be sitting everywhere around the world, right? And like
Exactly.
digital health
Exactly.
champions don't have to be like in one specific region to work on the topic.
It is. Where are you sitting right now?
I'm sitting in Berlin in Germany.
You're in Berlin, you see?
Yeah.
Exactly. It is just amazing. This week I'm in North Carolina. I'll be heading back to Senegal next week. But you know, yeah, absolutely.
It's great.
Yeah.
Maybe when we see like the topic from a different perspective, you've been looking in sexual and reproductive health and family planning for a long time, right? So
Yep.
those are all domains which prioritize women's health.
Yeah.
And what do you think? How can like digital health tools achieve universal health coverage across all different genders? How can they contribute to achieving like digital health equitable to different gender groups?
Yeah. Well, I think it is digital health is one of the greatest equalizer, if you want. At least we have tools in our hands, right? Because we've had the ideas, and many of us have been fighting for better equity, for putting women at the center of these initiatives, and then we still have to deal with a lot of obstacles. A lot of them are social. A lot of them are around social norms. But let's face it, there are a lot more universal features, or if you want. I mean, despite the differences and the cultural differences and stuff, human are humans, and humans are basic rights and basic needs, regardless of where they sit. So we've been talking about it. The ideas are not new. There's been many champions before us, and there will be many more after us. But I think what we now have with digital health is the opportunity to really make it a reality, because we have now the opportunity for better and greater connection among people. And I trust people, and I have a lot. I think if people are given the opportunity, they'll rise up to the occasion. They, all of us. I think humans. I think we're built that way. I I I think we need to be motivated, and we need to have independence to be able to think, and all of that. The problem now is just that, unfortunately, our lives are much more defined according to where we were born, and and all of us, you and I, and everybody else who is in this field, I think, are in this field because they believe fundamentally that we can do better.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I love
and I
your
think, yeah, huh?
I love your optimism about the topic. It's great to hear.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you have to. I think the world is become too crazy, and I think our attention is diverted into other things. But I think this idea of visiting who we are, and so I think if we are given opportunity, and if we are given the tools, I think we can do it. And that's how I see the value of digital and technology, um, in this particular subject of sexual reproductive rights. And it's just, we now have tools for better connections. But it's the same issues we have here. If we don't plan accordingly, if we are not more deliberate, if we because you have to deliberately plan for these things. You have to have an agenda so that it's always on the subject. It's a topic that's always on the subject. I think we have an opportunity if we equipped men and women the same way, provide them with the same tools, um, then I think things can happen. The reason why I'm excited about it is because, yeah, put the tool in the hands of people, and they'll do what is needed. They'll do because according to their context, they'll know how to use it. And just look at the cell phone. Look at look at what's happening with it around the world, and how it's penetrating every community and all that. So I think we should be optimistic, and we should be excited about the potential of digital helping us go a little faster than we have, because unfortunately we have we have been making progress and then going back, and then making progress and then going back. Hopefully with digital we can have sustained um, progress. The other thing that is also beautiful is that it's this whole idea of transparency and access to information, access to data. If you don't see it, you don't know. If somebody doesn't tell it to you, you won't know. Okay, what we now have with digital is that we have a power. we have the possibility of accessing information. And you don't have to be in a very rich country and so forth. Everybody has it in the palm of their hands. They can you can go. So I think these things I see as uh, enabling enabling us to move faster than we have in the past. Um, and at the same time, it also makes our work on accountability uh, much more powerful and much more effective, because we can we can have programs around account and initiatives around accountability that are much more credible and measurable, and everybody can see it and so forth. People can compare themselves to others. I mean, it's in this region, well, in the West Francophone West Africa region, we are focusing a lot on what is called the Ouagadougou Partnership. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's a coalition. It's a coalition of the 9 French-speaking countries that ten years ago came together in a thing called the Ouagadougou Partnership. Ouagadougou is the capital of Burkina Faso, and there was a big conference there in 2012, I think, to talk about family planning and how do we do a better job, how do we move the needle in family planning in this region. And ever since it's been created, there's been tremendous progress made. I mean, it's still slow compared to the rest of the world, but Senegal, for example, until COVID, started to have a 4-point jump in contraceptive prevalence rate per year, um, which was just amazing after having stuck into the 1-digit MCPR for a long time. Um, so I think those working in the field of family planning, sexual reproductive health and rights, have reasons to be excited on how digital health can push it. But we have to do it right. We should not let women behind in terms of coding schools, in terms of making sure they enroll in these things, making sure we have enough girls who enter this space now, so that we don't have some catch up to do, because that's the problem. We're always operating with a lag. There's a lag between girls and boys. There's a lag between men and women, and in an area where we want to put women at the center, we have to do what we need to do to make sure that situation is corrected. But yeah, but yeah, lots of good possibilities in this field.
So true.
Yeah. Hmm.
The image that you created by giving the tools directly into the hands of people, that was
Yes.
very powerful, I think.
Yes.
And also, like, the digital health can be a catalyst of like health literacy and people just getting more understanding about their health in general. That's so important to just like keep in mind when you're talking about the topic.
Absolutely. I have my only concern, Caroline, in this area, and that's why we're trying to address that with the Baobab Institute. You really have to now work on making the corrections or preparing the field. We should not take it for granted that everybody's excited about digital and digitalization, but not everybody, unfortunately, understand it. So we know we're excited about what it can do and the promise that it holds, but we are lacking the knowledge
Mm-hmm.
and the skills to do it right.
Yeah,
So it
definitely.
puts us in a very vulnerable situation. It put us back into that decolonization conversation, because we do run the risk of this being top down, being you know one phenomenon that we've seen in the last few years is people developing their tools and then coming to shop for what it could solve.
Mm.
And it should not be that way.
No, it should be the other way around.
It should be the other way around. And
Yeah.
we are not talking we are talking about promoting universal health care achievement. We are talking still about the unfinished business of global health. We are still talking about making faster progress in women health. We are still talking about unmet needs for family planning for millions of women. You know, those are the things we are talking about. And the risk we run is that the technology field moves so fast, and, you know, they are not even finished with the tool they are developing. They're into the next one.
Yeah, yeah.
So we have to be doing it in the right pace
Yeah.
and having the right training. And, you know, at all level, by the way, it's at the population level, at the service provider level, and at the policy making level. In all of these areas, we have a lot of work to do. It's almost like creating a new culture, right? So it takes time. It takes time, and it takes really for things to penetrate, all the levels, all the areas. Yeah.
What do you think? Like, what
Sorry,
changed?
I get too excited with this conversation.
No worries. It's great. I love it.
Yeah.
What do you think? Like, what changes in investment funding and also on the policy side are needed to make sure like that this development will benefit us all in the end?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I think it's not that people don't want to fund. People want to fund digital health, and they are beginning to do that. But I think they're also learning what is the best way to fund it. So I think it's up to us, um, us the researchers, the student communities, us implementers. I think it's us to get the data and feed it so that we can influence the way the funding. But I think we need funding at different levels. We need funding at the global level so that, like the stuff Transform Health is doing. I think it's a great initiative because to me, it's the one initiative that is trying to pull it all together and trying to look at, especially the policy aspect, um, that looks at basically providing countries with tools, with examples, and things like that. So we do need funding at that global level to keep the movement going because, um, Carolyn, I also tell people that I think it's important while we're having the conversation about localization and decolonization and all that, we do not forget that the progress we've been able to make as a community, we have made as a global community of like minded people who care deeply about this field. And we don't want to lose that. I mean, we have to maintain, and there is a global architecture. We have to tweak the global architecture, but we have to keep it because everybody wins in it. The countries that are trying to save lives or make progress or be developed, it's one thing. The funders that are also trying to support countries, which is such a great thing to do. But they have a lot of questions to ask, and they want to make sure that the money goes where it needs to go. So, but we need that. We need to continue this global community of practitioners and developers and policymakers and so forth. And then you need to support, of course, the countries that need it the most, because that's where we're gonna get to people, which is really ultimately our goal. Uh, but people don't know how to fund it. I mean, do I fund a new siloed digital health approach, or do I go to the health initiatives that are already going and add a digital component? Um, it's almost like you need both, but I think we need somehow, especially global initiatives. I think it's happening now. I think the big meeting, the Global Health Summit in Berlin or the World Health Assembly, all of those now have a robust section on digital. So
Yeah, very large one actually.
very, very, very live. So I think that needs to continue for another few years. I think we still have a lot of advocacy to do.
Mhm.
We have to make a case for why we should be financing
Yeah.
digital health. But I think it's okay. I think we can all be in the learning. We can be learning together, creating together, and the results that we'll have will be great. Um, so I think in terms of financing, clearly we have to convince those donors to just keep doing it, and it's in the realm of health system strengthening, and you might not see the results in 1 year or 2 years. So you have to be a little bit patient to see to see the results. In terms of policy, yes, what we need is ecosystems, especially on the ground, that are favorable to digitalization.
Hmm.
We should not assume that if we pour in billions and millions of dollars in this field, it will work. It will only work if the ecosystem in the countries, especially, are ready for digitalizations. And that's where policy comes. So, but this is the dilemma we have. How do policymakers, local policymakers, make policies on digital health when they don't understand digital health?
That's a hard one.
So it's kind of a catch-22. So you have to be working because we're at the beginning of this field being developed, but that also means that people have a lot to learn. They have to learn what are the implications, what this means. Obviously, there are a lot of practices right now that are in conflict with creating a strong digital health ecosystem. You have to be transparent. You have to accept to share information. You know that the problem working in a poverty stricken areas is that information is power, and you hang on to it if you have it. So not everybody is open to having a system where everybody sees everything. Then you're not going to have any more power. So you have to change these things. So that's the dilemma with policies. I mean, I think that's why some of the work of digital health is so important, like having policy model, you know, that you can share with countries. Yeah, this is a model of the country X did this. Maybe you can look into this. I think we need to support. We need that technical assistance, that technical support for a while. So I think we're going to be the next 10 years or so. We're still going to be working on strengthening the ecosystem, but we cannot do it without having favorable policies and good policies that are not just to restrict, because restrictive is necessary sometime, but sometimes it could be a problem too. Um, so those are the things that I think, the things about working in a multi-sectoral approach is also very important because um, with digital now we can actually better conceive how health and climate and food security can all work together,
That connects.
can
Yeah.
connect. And I think digital actually now give us an opportunity to do that better.
Mhm.
Um, but these are all very complicated structural issues. Yeah.
I think that was a wonderful overview and also like a good connection to the closing of this podcast. So, what would you say, like in 10 years, have we solved the issue of equity or what needs to change? Like, very short, in a minute, what do you think is the most important thing that we need to change?
Well, I'm glad you suggested equity because I do think that's the key. Um, and will we solve it in 10 years? I don't think so. But I think we will be. I think we. I think the awareness will be much better than it
Hmm.
is today in 10 years. I think we will make, thanks to digital. I think we will make a lot of progress in raising awareness and having a good chunk of our planet population, at least people that currently hold the power, um, develop enough awareness about
Hmm.
how people will behave and what attitude they will take. We are complex creatures.
Yeah,
Who knows?
that
What
is true.
drives people and what are they going to do and what final decision they're going to make. All of that is to be seen. But I think it's fair to say that we will have good awareness. We would have some more appreciation. I think we will be much more able to put ourselves in others' shoes, other people's shoes. And those are important because again, my belief in people, and that if people are aware and informed, they'll make the right decision, or the decision that's best for them. I think from that standpoint, yes. Uh, Having said that, I think um, the journey is also full of obstacles because for everything good and positive I can say, I feel you can say the opposite. And unfortunately, the world is so crazy these days. You don't know what people are going to do with these tools. I mean, especially AI. I think when I see what's happening in the world today with misinformation, with lack of trust in the system, we have some major issues to tackle, that are a lot that are just against, that are going to block us and that are going to slow down our progress. Is so I think those are going to be there, and there's no denying them. Um, but we will also get smarter. I mean, I think people have an opportunity to get smarter, to have more information in the palm of their hands, so they know. It's amazing how we all run to Google and to right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, especially young people, right?
yeah.
So maybe to end this off with, what is like one message that you would like to share with our young audience, with young people working in digital health who are watching this podcast? What is their role? What role can they play?
If you have an opportunity to broaden your perspective, if you have the opportunity to learn about how can you see the world with different lenses, if you have the opportunity to sharpen your cultural competency skills, everything will fall after that. Because I believe the future belongs to people who are going to see the world the widest possible. I think what gets us into trouble is, we all come from an educational system that teach you certain ways of thinking and so forth. But I think there's just such a need to break silos, to open up, and the young people and those watching this podcast are already very special people, because you could have chosen something simpler. But when you choose to work in the field of digital health or digital technology or development, that speaks to who you are as a person. It means that you're already at that level, that you're ready to support the world you live in. But I think if you can just continue on that momentum and do the work of learning about what global citizenry really means, because I think that's what attracts a lot of people in this field too, is that they say, I want to be of service to the world. I like what I'm doing. I like my country, but I really I'd like I'd like to give part of what I know and part of what I have to the global community. The saying is very simple. You want to make this world a better place, but that is really it. And I think it is, and I think for those of us, that's the advice. That's the main advice, because I think the more you understand the human and the human conditions, I think the better servant you will be.
Definitely. That's a wonderful quote to end us off with. I very much enjoyed this conversation. Also, like the emphasis that we put in the end on young people getting out there, broadening their horizons, and just actively working on decolonizing digital health and gender equity and inclusion.
Absolutely,
Thank
absolutely.
you so much for
Uh,
being here with us.
well,
There
thank
was an
you.
amazing conversation.
Thank you, Caroline. I enjoyed the conversation too. And yeah, look forward to continuing to connect. Thank you. Okay. Thank
Definitely.
you. Thank you. Okay.